Welcome everybody. Here's a little brief shopping list if you want to do a screenshot of that so you can figure out what supplies you need. And the next little thing you're going to see is a diagram, and I actually marked these from the classes that I give for this. It makes it easier to understand which molds need to be used and how many of each that you need to make. So we're starting with a wood plank that we cut out ourselves. If you're interested in purchasing those, you can buy those. You can buy the resin Christmas trees, and also I will include one of the diagrams so that you can see which items that you need to add as far as the molds go. It's got also a sample of the project that you can refer to, and that'll be available on our website. So we'll start using air dry clay. Use a little bit of cornstarch to dust our mold, and it acts as a release. We roll it up, press it down good, and clean it up, and then flip it over and let it release when it's upside down. Don't try to pull them out or your casting will kind of get stretched out, and it just looks better if you do it, if you flip it over and release it that way. And with this little one, there is a diagram to show you what you need with this. So I'm not even making the whole piece because we only need a certain portion of it, which you'll see. Once this clip finishes up, there's a little picture so you can see a little bit better what we're doing. And I'm using a razor to do this. You could use an X-Acto knife, it would work really well. Razor works good. Anything to give you a sharp edge so you can get in there easier. And coming up is a little diagram so you can see pretty good. You could do a little screenshot of that so you have that to refer to. And next we're going to make one of the little fleur-de-lis that's on this mold. And last but not least, we have trimmings 3, and we need to make the second one from the top. And on the diagram, it shows you exactly how many to make if you end up ordering a wood blank. And now it's time to assemble. And you want to get your layout first, get a general idea of how you want it to be. And we'll be miter cutting, and that's when a razor comes in handy. You'll want a razor blade for that. So you cut to length first, and then you cut corner to corner, and you lift up and you take off the extra clay on each side, and then press it back together. It's pretty easy to do, and it really makes a nice difference if you do it that way. We're going to glue all this down with Type-On Quick and Thick glue. We use this glue all the time. It dries really fast. I'm gluing down that top piece. And then I'm kind of forcing it to match up with the the side pieces there. And then I'm going to cut, and again, just like we did with the miter cuts, you take out the pieces that are below and above, and so you can join them together perfectly. And we're going to get those glued on, and it really goes pretty quick. I do like to glue the edges too. I find that that helps. So if you can kind of pop it, a little bit of it on the edge. This is such a fun project. I've done this class several times and each one of them has sold out. And everybody leaves really happy with their project. And you get them glued in place, and then we're going to move on to the beading. The beading is going to go on the inside of what we just put down. I just decided to glue them all at once so I could just assemble it quicker. If you move pretty quickly, you can do it this way. And then I start on the two sides, and then that way you want to make sure you do that. That way it'll match up when you come around the corner. And use a blade to cut it to size. And once you get all this together, you just want to let it dry long enough so that the clay forms like a crust on it. You can paint these when they're still damp. It just needs that crust. And actually I found that when I do paint it, it doesn't crack as much, which is kind of nice, especially if you want to use like an all-in-one paint that has the clear coat in it as well. So that would be like for Dixie Belle, it's the silk line. For let me think, Fusion makes a mineral paint line that has a built-in top coat. And then I'm just filling in the little areas where they're joined together. That helps hide because it will shrink just a little bit. I'm doing a little bit of cleanup with the glue. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint this with the color called Antebellum Blue by Dixie Belle. It is a really pretty color, and it probably doesn't look much like a Christmas color, but once you put that antique and glaze down on it, the antique and glaze has a warm yellow undertone. So of course when you mix yellow and blue together, you get green. But it's such a pretty dramatic color. And I've done this project in pink, I've done it in white, and I've done it in green, as you can see from the photos. The green seems to be the most popular, but they're all really pretty. You couldn't go wrong with any of them. Oh, we've got that one little piece left, that fleur-de-lis that's going to go at the top. And that's it. That's the biggest part of the project, really, is putting it together. So I poured resin for the Christmas tree. It's so thin, and especially with this project, you can't get those Christmas trees anymore. So, you know, anybody that needs them, I will be selling the resin ones on the website. but we're going to start by painting. And next we're going to paint that Christmas tree. The one thing I did notice when I did this class is some people went heavy with the paint, and you kind of lose some of the dimension in it when you go to put the antique and glaze and then the highlighting stuff on. So make sure you don't let your paint pool on the Christmas tree. It'll make a big difference. You'll get more detail if you're careful about that. What you can do is kind of stipple your brush, and that'll pull it off. You'll see I'm doing it there, and I'm offloading it onto the paper. So you can use your brush in two ways. You can use your brush to add paint, and you can also use it to take paint away. But you need something to offload it on a paper towel or craft paper like I'm using here on the table. So we let those dry. I did use a coat of clear coat with this, so just so that you know, you will want to use clear coat, or you're going to want to use something that has a built-in clear coat, because you'll have more control over the glaze if you do. This is a Van Dyke glaze. I'm just kind of pouncing it on. And like I said, it changes the color. You'll see the difference that it makes. It just turns it to this really pretty green. And I'm kind of tapping off. We want that just to kind of sit in the low areas. So I'm not pressing hard, really I'm just tapping on that. And then we'll go ahead and go over the frame next. I'm making sure I have the sides on the Christmas tree. I'm sorry I'm off frame a little bit there. All right, you're going to start by going around the edges. And I'm doing full coverage on here, and we're going to wipe it back a bit. The other thing too is if you find that you're moving a little bit slow with it, you can use a mist bottle. It'll kind of extend the working time on it, and that might be helpful. You also can thin the product with some more water too, and that'll make it glide on easier. But see how much that color changed and how pretty it is? Now I use my brush to offload again. I've got that paper towel that I'm wiping it on. And we let it dry, and we're going to glue the Christmas tree on. Be careful when you put the glue on these, because it does like to poke out with where the side branches are. So you're better off to put it on thin on those areas so you don't have to try to clean it up later. And we're going to glue that in place. See, I'm still cleaning up some of the glue. And the Quick and Thick does dry clear, but that being said, you'll still see the difference in the paint. I'm going to put that in place and press down a little bit. Now with your resin, when they come to you already poured, they tend to sometimes they'll bend up a little bit. You can heat them up with a hairdryer to flatten them out if that's a problem. And then I'm doing a little more cleanup, and then the next part is the fun part. We'll be using the Gilding, or liquid leaf it's called, and it's made by Plaid. And you could even use like the gilding waxes and ones that aren't going to smell strong. The stuff that I use smells strong, so you need really good ventilation. But I have to say, I've tried a lot of the gold, and this is by far the most beautiful. And what we're doing is we are kind of dry brushing. We want to use the side of the brush and only hit the raised areas because we want to keep the low areas. It's going to give the gold as a highlight, then the glaze is the low light. So that contrast is what makes it so pretty. So if you start going too heavy on this, you lose a lot of detail. So you can always go light and add more, but it's impossible to take it away. But you can see as we go how pretty that is. This Christmas tree mold has so much detail. It really is just a beautiful mold. And the size is so big on it that there's a lot of projects you can do with it. Take your time on this. There's no need to rush through it because this is probably the most important step here. Take your time so you don't, splash the liquid leaf. And you know what? During class, we had a lady who accidentally did, and what she ended up doing was taking a toothbrush, and I guess it would be called fly specking, I think is what it's called. It's where you take the toothbrush and you run your finger over top of it and it splatters. She ended up doing that to cover up her boo-boo, and it really kind of looked like snow falling, so it ended up being like one of those happy accidents that happen. So just a thought, if you end up having like a little spill, what you can do to kind of make it blend in. And once we're done with the tree, we're going to move on to the framing. It's amazing the detail that comes out when you start doing this. It just changes the look completely. You can paint the sides of it too. It'll look better if you do. You don't want to push your brush down into it. You want to use the flat side of the brush and keep that brush at the same angle that the piece that you're working on, so it is only hitting those raised areas. The minute you start turning your brush up and down, it's going to start entering into the areas that are recessed and you'll lose your dimension. And we're almost done. Alrighty. And I believe that's a wrap. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please reach out. If you need any of the projects, you can visit us on our website at www.vintagerestoremore.com. And there you can see the finished project with some good photography there. I know that the shop lights kind of, they're very bright, so you can't get a good idea of what the color is, but you can see it really good there. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.